So The Gray Man is based on a series of books. And so what was the biggest creative liberty you took with this adaptation?
I mean, biggest creative, look, what we loved about the book was its inventiveness in the spy space, the relentlessness of the action. It was excessive, and we like excessive. We're entertained by it. We added the character of Danny Miranda, that's played by Anna de Armas, so that, a book, you obviously can read the thoughts of the character. We couldn't keep Six a lone wolf throughout the entire movie, or you'd have a hard time discerning what his motives were. So we added Miranda so that he had someone he could bounce off of that could pull at his backstory, etc. I think that's probably the biggest liberty we took.
Yeah. Well, and she's a pretty big part of the movie too. I've seen it, and she becomes a pretty integral part of what happens. But in terms of performances and who really stood out to me as a character, Chris Evans is Lloyd Hansen. He just chews the scenery. I mean, he's just so good. Yeah. And what about his character makes him such an excellent villain? And how was Chris the perfect fit for this role?
Look, we conceived the whole movie as basically a conflict between two diametrically opposed forces, the Gray Man and Lloyd Hansen. And for as understated and restrained and disciplined as the Gray Man is, Lloyd is the opposite, the polar opposite. He is a train wreck of a human being. He wants to tear up every room he goes into. He is very irreverent, aggressively irreverent, showy, and reckless. So that's the basic dialect, the basic conflict in the movie is between those two characters. So look, we had such a great relationship with Chris Evans after exploring Captain America with him for many years over the course of 4 movies. And we knew Chris's personality in real life is very different from Captain America. He's very he's very charismatic and talkative and funny, energetic. Captain America is so contained and controlled and restrained. Look, it certainly tickled the three of us to think about, Chris going on to explore a new character with him that is so far away from Captain America. Couldn't be more opposite. And that was a lot of the fun for all of us going to work on that character.
When you could tell that Chris had a blast in the role too. I mean, you could tell that he just ate up every scene that he was in. And then in terms of, I'm going to kind of pivot into talking about action as a genre, because you guys have action on your resume in spades. Throughout your career as a directing duo, you guys have found really fun, innovative ways to incorporate action into stories and genres that don't inherently call for it, but are better because you put them in there. For example, the paintball episode in Community. Yep. Do you feel like the narrative utility of action is underappreciated?
I think so. I mean, it's a universal language, right? Everyone can watch it and everyone can follow it if you do your job correctly. We also just, we're engaged by the choreography of it. It's fun to choreograph. It's not dissimilar in a lot of ways to physical humor. A house is supposed to fall on Buster Bluth, and he happens to be standing in a Chaplin-esque way right where the window is. He falls, through the roof of a hotel and lands in somebody's bed in a hotel room. That it's a natural progression from physical comedy to action. We think that action can illuminate character in a really unique way by, putting the character in a crisis situation and seeing how they respond to that situation. So the degree of difficulty generally seems to be higher than just pointing the camera at two people talking. Yeah. And I think, as we progress in our careers and, before rigor mortis sets in, we try to keep challenging ourselves with more, more kinetic and more inventive action set pieces.
Right. Well, I mean, that leads into my next question really beautifully. And you use the word kinetic, which is one of my favorite words to describe the way that you guys develop characters. Great action, as you know, is not just about impressive choreography or flashy set pieces. It's about kinetic character development and reinforcement.
Right.
And I think that your filmography is full of movies that do this. They further plot, they enrich characters, they keep audiences invested through the action of their characters. And so, in what ways has your understanding of the genre deepened, and how does The Gray Man reflect that growth?
Wow.
That's a great
I mean,
question.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's like, we always say this, filmmaking is a craft. And, like any craft, the more you do it, the better you become at it. And action is a very specific subset of the craft of filmmaking. And again, it's hard to become fluent in action without doing it over and over and over again. And look, action is expensive. You can do lower budget action, but to really use all the tools that are possible in terms of creating kinetic cinematic action, you need a good budget to do that. And so we've been very fortunate that we've been making movies at a high level now for a while. We've gotten to use a lot of the tools over and over again. And I do think that has increased our sort of fluency with them in terms of what we're capable of. And that is very exciting to us. And that's sort of an evolving issue. I mean, the Gray Man presented a lot of unique opportunities for us to play with action and explore character. He was such a specific character in this movie. And it's like, one of my favorite moments in this movie is that, here's this guy, the Gray Man, who starts the movie living anonymously, moving in and out of situations unseen, doesn't even want to necessarily be there. And there's a moment in the film where he's handcuffed to a bench in the middle of a busy city square in Prague, and the police are looking at him. And there are teams of assassins on their way to look at him. There's people remotely through cameras monitoring him and looking at him. And it's like all of a sudden there couldn't be more eyes on the Gray Man. And that's sort of like a perfect set piece to get to with this character who just wants to disappear.
Well, yeah, and from that moment erupts a huge firefight. It's one of the biggest action set pieces in the movie, and it's such a cool. And he's chained to it most of the time. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie, to be honest with you. So I know we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm trying to be efficient with it. I guess my last question for you is what can you tell us about the future of the franchise? I mean, if you can't, it's okay, but if you don't know anything.
I mean, look, it's obviously based on a series of books, so it's ready made for a franchise. Anthony and I love long form storytelling. We did it in television for years. We did it with Marvel. We're more inclined and more interested as filmmakers in long form storytelling. We're a little, we get a little bored by the 2-hour close-ended narrative. But it's really up to the audience to tell us at this point whether more of this story, and we'll see how it does on Netflix, and we'll wait for a response from the audience, and then make a decision about whether we tell another story or not.
So a script hasn't been written or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Really thoughtful questions.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great day. Try to stay out of that heat.
Thank you. That was fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.